Introducing and 1/2 pounds. This 32-fight veteran holds a professional record standing at 22 victories, 10 defeats, 19 big wins coming by way of knockout. Here's the challenger from Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico, Christian Aimed across the ring, his opponent fighting out of the red corner. Wearing white trunks trimmed in orange and red, he weighed in 167 and 1/2 pounds. In 10 bouts, he stands perfect with 10 victories, no defeats, 9 wins coming by way of knockout. From Houston, Texas, here is the reigning, defending, undefeated WBA Continental USA Super Middleweight Champion, destined for greatness, and your referee in charge of the action, Ricky Gonzalez.
Ya te di las reglas en el camerino. Protéjase todo el tiempo y obedeces mis órdenes todo el tiempo. Gave you the instructions in the dressing room. I expect a good, clean fight. Protect yourselves at all times. Obey my commands at all times. Touch them up.
So we're ready to go with our next contest in the super middleweight division. As you heard, a regional title from the WBA also on the line. The WBA Continental USA super middleweight title. Of course, that means a little boost in the rankings for the winner of this contest. Darius Fulgham, DFG, one of the prize prospects in the Golden Boy stable right now. And Fulgham with a really impressive backstory as well. He's a licensed nurse in Texas with a degree from Prairie View A&M. In fact, the entire Fulgham family, all of them have degrees from HBCUs. Really one of the better spoken fighters that you'll ever talk to.
100%. He cares about education. I'm willing to bet that even if he starts making a whole lot of money, he'll still keep his nursing job.
It's a good paying job.
Fulgham, a decorated amateur. He was ranked #1 in the nation at heavyweight at one point, a national Golden Gloves winner. A winner at the 2020 U.S. Olympic team trials.
Lost some weight. Said, I'm going down in the weight class. Smart move by the young man. Good jab.
Yeah, 6-foot heavyweight, or 6'1" heavyweight, that would fly in the 50s. Probably not now. And you're looking up at 6'9".
Yeah.
Tyson Fury.
Now 6'1" super middleweight sounds really good.
Just don't tell Andy Ruiz.
I do think a statement needs to be made today.
Oh, nice.
Darius for sure.
Short uppercut there from Fulgham. Well, to your point, I think after that Alantez Fox, and again, it's a good victory. You have to deal with a lot when you're in there against Alantez Fox. Very few people look good against the Fox brothers, but I'm sure for Fulgham, he wants to kind of erase the memory of what was in some ways a frustrating night for him.
Well, and look, as you know, you're as good as your last fight, so in boxing, people will forget.
I think that was a good name, and I think it should have been scored a unanimous decision and not a majority draw. But it is what it is.
It's sneaky up
his best night.
No, this is the first round, so let's give Fulgham some time to get into a rhythm as he lands a nice 1-2.
Absolutely. This is what I call ring reconnaissance. You know, you're just surveying your opponent. You're seeing what works.
Nice little furry outfit by Fulgham today, as I'm observing everybody's fashion sense today.
No opposition from the commission on that one. Fur allowed, tassels not. Back pockets also allowed. And that'll do it for round one.
Fulgham touching Olivias with his jab. Like I said, ring reconnaissance. Short uppercut there, counter. And just controlling the pace with the jab.
Round two begins. Darius Fulgham and Christian Olivas. 8 rounds in the 168-pound division.
Stop.
Olivas had a couple of years off the sport a couple of years back after his fight against Shane Mosley Jr. And he again stepped in on short notice, stepped in for Jason Quigley to face Shane Mosley Jr. He was stopped in 5 rounds, and he suffered a lot of damage to his right eye in that fight, nerve damage that made him think he might not ever fight again. So even being in here, and being as durable as he is maybe a medical miracle, guys.
Pretty remarkable.
Something that Darius Fulgham would probably be very impressed with.
He'll be able to nurse him after the win today.
I think he's giving him a pretty good checkup right now.
Nice left hook to the body there from Fulgham, who once described his style as wear and tear, just breaking my opponent down.
I wonder if Fulgham feels bad because he's a nurse and he's seen what some damaged patients.
That's a good point. How do you turn that empathy off when you go in the ring as a medical professional? Well, he's certainly doing it right now as he rips another left hook to the body.
Once the fight is over, he'll put his nurse hat back on.
Here's some chants in the crowd here at Barclays Center, which is starting to fill up. Some chants in DFG. Fulgham has a nice fan base in Texas.
Oh, the crowd was huge in Texas in one of his last fights.
Yeah,
it was
we were in
incredible.
attendance. Got Ryan Garcia Duarte.
Absolutely.
Another right hand to the body there from Fulgham, right along the belt line. And Olivas saying he's being pushed down. I mean, he has to be careful on that instant, guy. There was a shot to the body that landed and the glove touched the ground.
Yes.
Had the official seen it a different, I'm not saying it should have been a knockdown.
Right.
I'm saying
Could have been
an official in a different position could see that the wrong way.
Right.
Ooh.
Nice shot there from Olivas. Pops up with a nice left hook. Fulgham just rocks his head back with a straight right hand.
It's almost, Fulgham is not loading up with them shots. They're coming from right here, short distance. That's a good straight right.
Just posting with that left hand, lining him up for the right hand. Extra zip on these shots from DFG right now as he places one more right hand to the body. That'll do it for round 2.
Well, sometimes you got to let an opponent get a little confidence, maybe get a shot off so you can be comfortable enough to be in an exchange so you can land big shots.
One, 2-1 from Fulgham. Pushes him up against the ropes. Fulgham's in total control of this fight here. But Olivas is not going out with punches of his own. Beautiful double jab right hand by Fulgham. And the referee is just tired of Fulgham always pushing Olivas down.
Round 3 begins. We'll see if Darius Fulgham can pick up where he left off at the end of round 2. Really started to physically dominate Christian Olivas in that round. And guys, we mentioned Fulgham fighting at heavyweight in the amateurs and working his way back down, and you see this pattern sometimes. You think of guys that have been really physically strong and dominant, guys like Beterbiev, who fought at a heavier weight in the amateurs. Sean Porter fought at a heavier weight. They get into the pros and work their way down through camps, but they maintain that same frame and that same physicality that they had when they were a larger fighter.
That's a good point. And, they're used to having to deal with heavier guys, and it's almost like muscle memory. And usually they're stronger when they get into these weight classes they're at now.
Yeah, Sean Porter was an excellent example because he fought and beat Usyk in the amateurs. And if you think about it, he was barely hurt in his career until his last fight.
Well, if you want to hear more from Sean Porter, he'll be on the pay-per-view broadcast a little bit later on. And to do so, you can order on DAZN pay-per-view. Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia coming up later on. That pay-per-view broadcast starts at 8 o'clock p.m.
Would have missed that.
I see what you're saying. Fulgham's shots, he's not sitting down on them. Those are arm punches. And I would think that he's under the pressure that, he has to get this guy out of here if he wants to be compared, like you said earlier, Corey. These guys compare themselves to other fighters and what you did against common opponents.
Yeah, it's almost his shoulders are squared up and it's just arms from there. He's not turning the waist. Like, that was a good left hook where he turned it.
Well, even with what he's doing, guys, Olivas, who's a double tough guy, is looking very uncomfortable in there right now. The body language is not positive from Olivas, and more than that, you could see swelling in and around both eyes, and we mentioned the issues that he's had, serious problems, nerve damage in the face, and even with what Fulgham is doing right now, maybe not sitting down on all these shots, he's still busting this guy up.
And look, let's give him credit. He has 9 knockouts out of his 10 wins, so obviously he's a heavy hitter, not having to load up. Whatever he's doing, it's working.
Yeah, and some guys just have natural power. It's like the pitcher that can throw 100 but can casually just throw 95. Some people just have special power.
Yeah, indeed.
I agree.
Shot there from Fulgham, just a sweeping right hand. Pivots, gets out of the way, now back on the inside and doing damage to the body.
I think it's time for the ref to start wondering if Olivas is taking too many shots.
Great assessment.
I did not like the look of that offensive offering from Christian Olivas a moment ago. Looking a little bit unsteady right now as we head back into the corners.
Unloaded with hooks and uppercuts. I believe this round is when Olivas really started to feel it. When a referee stays in your corner the whole break, he's paying attention to your mannerism to see if you should continue.
Doctor's taking a close look at Christian Olivas as well as round 4 begins. Darius Fulgham, it sounds strange to say, but somewhat quietly just doing a lot of damage here. Quick shoe shine combinations on the inside there from Fulgham. You're right, guys. Fulgham is not throwing his fastball right now, but he is busting Olivas up.
Maybe, Barack mentioned earlier, some guys want to get rounds in, get some work in, even though I generally don't believe that if you can get a guy out of there. But it's doable right now.
And then sometimes you fall into a comfort zone of fighting.
And that is it. The referee will stop it. It came at a time when Olivas was throwing a shot, but ultimately this was a pattern that was not going to change.
Right.
Absolutely.
So a knockout victory for Darius Fulgham. Make it 10 knockouts in 11 fights for DFG.
Hey, he didn't have to hurt him badly and still got the knockout victory. That's the nurse in him.
Yeah. We're not going to always get the highlight reel knockout, and the fight is not going to always hit the mat. But when you're getting this many shots,
All the belts are on the line. Ring of Fire, live on DAZN worldwide, May 18th. Buy now at DAZN.com.
Hey, Devin Haney here, 2-division world champ. Out Ryan Garcia. My quest for greatness never stops.
Per-view telecast, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia. You see the QR code on your screen. Get your camera out, scan that, and join us at 8:00 p.m. But right now, we're ready to make Darius Fulgham's 10th career knockout official as we send it back up to Joe Martinez. Darius Fulgham cruises to victory here tonight, getting the stoppage win over Christian Olivas. He made it look easy, guys, and, you know, these are still learning fights for Darius Fulgham, and even though he didn't really have to throw his hardest stuff in this fight, I mean, perhaps the game plan was, hey, go in there, place your shots, worry about speed more than power. I'm just guessing here.
It worked.
If it was, it worked.
maybe so, but like I was talking about muscle memory earlier, you want to go in there and not fight to the level of your opponent. You know, you want to do your best in every fight. And though it was effective, I think he could have done more. That's all.
Nonetheless, Darius Fulgham remains in the win column. And Fulgham, as we mentioned, a very impressive young man outside of the ring as well. And he'll have plenty of opportunities because of that backstory, the ability to market himself, the ability to speak as well. Fulgham, a guy that we're definitely excited to see more of. Guys, of course, our main event coming up a little bit later on. It's Haney, it's Garcia. There's been a lot of talk about what's been happening outside of the ring, the build-up to this fight, which frankly, one of the more memorable in recent years, I would say, when it comes to major fights. But inside the ring, this is still a fascinating style matchup, I think.
Absolutely, because you're thinking about, a lot of people are thinking about Devin Haney's last performance against Regis Prograis, who's a certain type of fighter. Not a lot of foot movement, short arms, not as fast as Ryan Garcia, and twitchy. So I think, though he looked dominant, he's fighting a different type of fight than Ryan Garcia, so it's going to be a lot more competitive than the odds are showing.
I think it's like what you said earlier, you know, because of the antics are just taken away from what we actually have here. We have two of the best 140-pound fighters, and they're both coming off of great performances. Everybody's forgetting that because of some tweets that Ryan Garcia is doing.
A little bit more than some tweets.
All right, a little bit more.
On Instagram.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, you're right. He's coming off a knockout victory, and Devin coming off a dominant performance. I wouldn't say people have forgotten about the Tank fight, but obviously he moved up in weight. He's a lot more comfortable at 140, though he didn't make 140 in this one. Maybe, I alluded to it earlier, maybe that's part of the strategy for him to come a lot heavier than Devin in there and be the stronger guy.
100% part of the strategy, but does that look like you're professional? You know, it's a bad look, but he's saying, I want to be comfortable.
Well, you got to scan that QR code if you want to find out what's going to happen. It's at the top left of your screen. That's our main card starting at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. But we've got one more fight on the prelims, and it could be an exciting one, guys, between Sergey Derevyanchenko, literally coming off of the fight of the year against Jaime Munguia, taking on Vaughn Alexander. We're ready to meet the fighters. Let's send it back up to Joe.
Thank you for your service. God bless you, and may you rest in peace.
A fitting tribute here at the Barclays Center, and we actually have a few more moments before our next contest between Sergey Derevyanchenko and Vaughn Alexander. So let's talk about it, guys. Derevyanchenko, a guy, as we mentioned, coming off the fight of the year as voted on by many outlets against Jaime Munguia, a fight that I was honored to call and of course be ringside for. Derevyanchenko is just one of boxing's ultimate hard luck cases. When you look at the Munguia fight, the Triple G fight, he's a guy who keeps getting these big fights and just has heartbreaking decisions not going his way for one reason or another. And now the question is there enough time for Derevyanchenko to reach the goals that he's been so painfully close to?
I'll even add the Daniel Jacob fight.
Sure,
that was
absolutely.
a very close fight, though I thought maybe Danny pulled it off. I think he's the type of guy that you can't count out, especially from what we saw against Munguia. But to your point, is it too much? Has it been in too many wars? I guess we'll find out.
I think he has to focus on not losing focus, because hard luck, because he gets knocked down. It's always a knockdown is the reason why he loses the fight. Literally, he wouldn't have won the fight against Munguia if it wasn't for the 12th round knockdown. And in the Triple G fight and Jacobs fight, he gets knocked down in the first round. So tough fights with top opposition, but he keeps coming up short.
Well, and it's heartbreak in even more painful ways. You think about that Munguia fight. Remember that there were negotiations to make that a 10-round fight. Derevyanchenko said, no, I want it to be a 12-round fight. That's what I signed for. I trained for 12 rounds. And that knockdown, when did it come? In the 12th round. Had that been a 10-round fight, Derevyanchenko, if memory serves, either wins the fight or walks away with a draw, right?
Might be fighting Canelo in May 4th instead of Munguia.
So Derevyanchenko taking on Vaughn Alexander in this fight, a guy who's been around the block. Again, one of these guys who tests everyone, always extremely durable. A guy who had a contract with Don King in like the early 2000s, and now still active and in a fight against Sergey Derevyanchenko coming up in just a few moments as we wait for those two fighters. But But right now, we're going to take a look at the last two performances from both Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia as we get ready for our main event a little bit later on. Here, guys, I mean, this was just an absolute masterclass. Devin Haney against Regis Prograis. Not often are you going to see really a dismantling of an elite level fighter quite like this.
I think the biggest mistake was Regis Prograis went into that fight saying, I can box just as good as Devin, but hardly anybody on this planet can box as good as Devin.
I think most thought that the fight would be a bit more competitive. That's why it stood out. That's why the dominance was highlighted, because we thought Regis would do more. But I guess that lends to how great Devin really is.
Well, and in the midst of everything that's been going on during this fight promotion, Barack, you mentioned Ryan Garcia coming off an impressive victory last time out against Oscar Duarte, as we take a look at some of those highlights as well. Garcia showing some adjustments. There was a period of time in that fight when you were probably thinking, why is he shoulder rolling quite like this? But you saw some new wrinkles in working with Derek James in this fight.
No, that was more like an elbow roll. That wasn't a shoulder roll. It was bad. It was bad. He knows that that wasn't something that Derek James was showing him, but he stopped it. He started countering better, and he went on the offense, and he got him out of it.
And he was honest and candid about it. He said, look, I tried something that wasn't really working. I made adjustments, and that's what great fighters do. And he got the knockout victory that people expected.
So Haney and Garcia coming up a little bit later on. Arnold Barbosa also on the undercard, a guy who's been calling for those big names at 140 pounds for quite some time. He felt that he was in a position promotionally before. Again, this is how he felt, where he just couldn't get to some of those names, or it wouldn't be possible. Now, under the DAZN banner, he does have some options, and he's got to be happy about his placement on the card, kind of being positioned as a potential next opponent for the winner of that main event.
Co-main means you are next on the menu, hopefully, depending on your performance. And he was ready to step in, hoping that probably Ryan Garcia would pull out of the fight.
Yeah, I mean, look, to your point, this is a setup fight, right? But Barack, like you're saying, he has to shine. This is almost like an audition, right? The stage is set. It's going to be a packed crowd in here. And if he performs well, people would want to see that fight, especially the folks who are going to be in attendance.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, too, for Barbosa as a guy, you know, whether he was kind of unable to get those fights, the fans weren't kind of putting him in that position because they just didn't think a lot of those fights were possible. Now that they are, it does seem extra important for Barbosa to turn in that type of performance now that those fights are possible, to say, oh, yeah, I mean, this is a guy we want in with some of those top names at 140.
Yeah, because we want to see knockouts. You know, I think if he puts his foot on the gas and get these guys out of here, then everybody's going to be clamoring for you to fight the top guys.
Yeah, because let's be honest. I mean, he has to compete with the big names in the sport at 140 that Devin or Ryan want. When you talk about Teofimo Lopez or maybe Tank coming up to 140, those are the big money fights people want. So in order for you to squeeze yourself in the mix, you have to look great in the ring.
So that's on our pay-per-view telecast coming up later on, starting at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Beck the Bully also on our pay-per-view undercard. That there are a lot of this man to finally break through. He's looking to stay.
1/2 pounds. In 19 professional bouts, his record stands at 14 victories, 5 defeats, with 10 wins coming by way of knockout. Here's the 3-time world title challenger from Brooklyn.
Hurt against Deverenchenko to the body.
It was a body shot.
Yes.
We've yet to see Triple G hurt to the head.
Didn't start too hot, didn't gas himself out, so perhaps that's a part of the evolution, even at this round 2 underway. And perhaps set up some potential big fights that would still be on the table for him at 168, maybe at 160. He says he still believes he can get back down there.
I believe he'd be competitive at any weight, but I believe 160 is probably best for him because of his height. You know, we're looking at two 38-year-olds, but Derevyanchenko got a lot more left in his tank compared to Vaughn Alexander.
Derevyanchenko feels like one of those guys that's been around forever, but still only has a record of 14-5. You know, all the fights he's had, they've been tough fights, but
exactly.
In total, there really haven't been that many of them. Maybe because his amateur record was 3.
His career, when you think about the type of fights he's been in.
Yeah, he came into the pros, you know, at a higher age, but had a long amateur career. So he stepped it up much faster than other fighters. And I think Vaughn Alexander has the style that's going to, you know, allow us to see Sergey, you know, what he has in his tool shed.
Good reason we think about Derevyanchenko as an all-action fighter, but again, going back to that amateur pedigree, I mean, this is a really gifted technical boxer, hence the nickname the Technician. And one thing that his trainer Andre Rozier always talks about is that tight defensive circle that he keeps, where he could be in front of you, looks like you're going to war, but really he's pivoting around you. He's swimming without getting wet, so to speak.
Exactly. That little step to the side puts him out of range off of the line.
Jacob just touching Alexander to the body again, not putting everything behind those shots quite yet, just placing those shots. We're inside the final 30 seconds of round 2.
Another example of having an opponent in Vaughn Alexander that allows you to work on the things you need to work on for the better opponents.
Nice counter shots there from Vaughn Alexander, though, but Derevyanchenko puts a little more mustard on those shots. So that'll do it for round 2.
Starting to see little hints of vintage Derevyanchenko here. Getting into a rhythm, and maybe you alluded to that earlier, Corey, where they want him to pace himself.
Had one of the toughest chins in the sport.
As you mentioned, Barack Vaughn Alexander, the older brother of Devin Alexander, who actually is fighting next month in my wife's home province of Alberta. He's fighting up in Canada.
Is she promoting the fight?
I mean, she is a lawyer. I think she'd be qualified to. Amanda, do you want to start promoting fights? If you're watching, let me know.
She better be watching.
She might not let you call him.
That's right. Round 3 underway. Sergey Derevyanchenko looking like he's picking things up a little bit here in round 3.
Are you guys seeing Derevyanchenko that is maybe showing 38 years old and maybe been in a few too many wars?
That's the other possibility in terms of what we're seeing, right? But I think it's early, and we'll see, you know, once we hit round 5, round 6, if Derevyanchenko is still looking the way that he did in round 1, I think maybe you start asking those questions.
That's a very good question. I can't be sure, but I think I'm looking at this more like how Fulgham did in his fight, you know, where he had somebody in front of him who wasn't a threat, you know, so he didn't give his all.
As we say that, Derevyanchenko is just peppering Von Alexander with right hands.
Flurry of punches here.
He said, I'm going to show Rock.
And Alexander says, hey, it's nothing. He's eating those.
He's used to having a good chin, you know, so he's used to walking forward and still getting hit by big shots.
And hey, don't get me wrong. I'm saying the 30-year-old version of Derevyanchenko, but that's still a dangerous fighter.
Absolutely.
You see the footwork.
His hands.
You know, the pressure of Von Alexander is making Derevyanchenko work a little bit more, and maybe he's thinking he could tire him out.
Maybe that's the strategy. But Derevyanchenko is strong late in fights, so that might not be the best strategy.
That's the truth.
Against a guy like Derevyanchenko.
As we tend to see in Derevyanchenko fights, that scar tissue seems to have opened up once more. As you pointed out, Doc, a little dribble of blood coming off the bridge of the nose.
The Andre Rozier School of Boxing.
See Derevyanchenko taking deep breaths because he had to really work in that round. The pressure was on him.
Round 4 begins. Sergey Derevyanchenko and Von Alexander wrapping things up. Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia.
Excellent jab work by Derevyanchenko. Maybe more. What type of performance will we need from Derevyanchenko in order for him to get maybe another big shot at another big fight?
I think for Derevyanchenko,
his last 4 or 5 fights. Can he maintain that? He gets strong as the fight goes usually.
You know, that's the second time you're right tonight. And the second time in your life.
Shot there from Alexander, you're right. Dangerous shot from Alexander, scores right before the bell.
Chenkov came back with a beautiful combination. 2 double straight rights, right to Alexander's chin, but he seems to take it well. That one slid off of the shoulder, Alexander, but that jab and right cross landed. And Alexander shakes his head, nope, none of these are affecting me. Notoriously durable of Von Alexander, living up to his reputation once again. He has absorbed some shots from Sergey Derevyanchenko, but again, every once in a while, leaping left hook.
Still dangerous in there at times. Ooh, another nice uppercut grazed side of Derevyanchenko's face. But not busy enough to win these rounds. And, you know, then you start to think, okay, does he want to just do enough to finish the fight? Or is he trying to win?
And again, going back to how unique Derevyanchenko's skill is, I mean, usually when you see guys that are physically undersized for a division, they're built like Derevyanchenko, they're kind of that like bob and weave, pugnacious pressure fighter. Derevyanchenko has those gritty elements, but he also has, you know, the Ukrainian schooling footwork.
Yes.
And he's dancing around guys at this weight class. But because of that size differential, he also gets touched up a little bit.
Exactly. Moving, just like this reminds me of Triple G Canelo 1, you know, where Canelo was landing good shots, but he can't be hard.
He's made up his mind that this is a strategy, and he'll rip when he has the opportunity to. But I think, you know, Corey mentioned earlier, Alexander, every once in a blue, he'll land a big shot.
There's the rip you're talking about.
Just right there. There's that right hand.
He's doing just enough. Derevyanchenko bleeding from the nose now.
Caused by a jab by Alexander.
have them cut. Von Alexander, you can't hurt this guy.
Yeah, Barack might be right.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you, pay attention. Pay attention. This guy is walking him down. He's letting his hands go a little bit more, Alexander. And I think Derenchenko is finding it hard to keep him off.
I mean, he's still winning big.
Winning rounds.
But there are shots that are being landed by Alexander that's making you think, is this going to start breaking Derenchenko down in a few rounds?
Best to keep Alexander off. Beautiful double left hook by Derenchenko. Pushes him off, says, give me some breathing room. And Alexander comes back in his face and eats a jab. Beautiful spin work by Derenchenko. Just controlling the fight, controlling the ring.
You ready to go?
Are fairly clear Derenchenko rounds, but Barack, I think your point is a good one. It's not an impossibility that Von Alexander, who doesn't seem affected by any of these shots, who's moving forward, landing hard shots every once in a while, it's not an impossibility that one of these shots affects Derenchenko. I mean, again, he is admittedly an undersized 168, and we've seen him
throw a jab to the body, but then, you know, he stopped, and that's what I think he needs to do. I don't know if his corner's telling him that. Go to the body, slow him up, at least make him reset.
I'll tell you one thing, though. I don't see Sergey slowing down in terms of the volume of punches, the way he's moving with his footwork, and we're in round 7. It's still no slowdown.
Yeah, the legs most certainly seem to be there, and that's really what you worry about when it comes to a 38-year-old. His punch resistance and do your feet look the same?
Sergey hasn't went much to the body to maybe slow Alexander down from moving forward. A lot of headshots, 90% of the shots that he put went to the head. Not too much body work. Maybe we need to start thinking about going to the body.
100%. I think if Vaughn let his hands go a little bit more, he'd be very, very dangerous right now.
This combination there from Derenchenko, but Von Alexander just yells at his face, just eats it, and talks to him.
That means nothing if you get a hit. Derenchenko is ripping shots to the face of Alexander. Though he's walking through him, he's losing every round.
Of round 7 as Derenchenko just uncorking those hooks.
You know, we talk about his size in this division, Corey, but maybe his power's not holding up in this division because he hasn't hurt Alexander yet.
Alexander still doesn't want to sit down. Good right cross. lost by Deverenchenko. But Vaughn is on him and ate 2 left hooks. Complaining about Deverenchenko pushing him off.
Round 8 begins. Sergey Derevinchenko and Von Alexander, who takes a spill there.
Didn't I tell you about those sneakers? You see him slipping? No,
I mean, it did take until round 8.
Like he's going to play baseball in this.
Von Alexander, a really remarkable comeback story, coming back after spending 11 years in prison, returning after a 12-year layoff. Guys, to put it into perspective, the era in which Alexander's pro career started, he made his debut on the undercard of Corey Spinks' first defense of his unified welterweight title against Zab Judah. He also appeared on the undercard of Roy Jones, Antonio Tarver II, and Felix Trinidad, Ricardo Mayorga at